It's a staple of the Australian sports calendar. Once the Christmas trees are packed away, the New Year's novelty glasses are thrown in the bin, and everyone's run out of holiday leave, all eyes turn to Melbourne for the Australian Open. The Open unites Australians. We love to watch it. We love to talk about it. Hell, we love to compete in it. But for some reason, we don't seem to love winning it. Especially not the men's singles. Barty broke the drought for the Women's Open singles in 2022. David Hall won 3 straight in men's wheelchair, and Dylan Alcott won 7 straight in quad wheelchair. Yet in the men's Open singles, nothing. Not since 1976. Between Ash Barty's iconic win and Chris O'Neill's win way back in 1978, Australian fans suffered through 44 long years with no singles victories, with things even more bleak on the men's side, their last win coming 48 years ago. But it wasn't always like this. Australians won 9 of the first 10 Australian Opens on the women's side, and 6 of the first 10 on the men's. But since then, the hometown heroes have gone on a losing streak which is near unbelievable. In the gap between O'Neill and Barty's wins, only 5 other Australians even qualified for Australian Open finals. Pat Cash is the only one to make multiple appearances when he appeared in 1987 and 1988. Wendy Turnbull was the only woman to make a final in that gap, and Leighton Hewitt was the only Aussie to make a final in the 21st century until Barty. But why have the Australians been so unsuccessful in their own backyard? It's certainly not due to a lack of talent. In the last half-decade, Australia has proved to be a hotbed of tennis talent. We've produced names like Pat Rafter, Sam Stosur, Mark Philippoussis and Jelena Dokic. But none of these players ever even made an Australian Open final. Abroad, the Aussies have found success everywhere they go. 8 Grand Slam wins in the Australian Open drought, including at least 1 win in every other Grand Slam. Ash Barty won the French Open in 2019 and became one of 3 Aussies to win Wimbledon when she finished on top in 2021, just like Leighton Hewitt did in 2002 and Pat Cash in 1987. Hewitt also won the US Open in 2001, as did Pat Rafter in 1997 and Sam Stosur in 2011. Part of the reason that Australians have struggled to find success at the Australian Open is because most players have struggled there, with the past few decades being dominated by a few select names. Since 2004, only 2 Australian Opens have been won by someone other than the big 3 of Rafael Nadal with 2, Roger Federer, who has 6, or Novak Djokovic, who has a whopping 10. On the women's side, it's somewhat similar, with a number of dominant runs throughout the years. 7 for Serena Williams, 4 for Steffi Graf, and the three-peat by Martina Hingis. In 2022, Ash Barty finally broke through for the Australian women when she took down Danielle Collins in straight sets to claim the Australian Open trophy. But Barty has since retired, and she hasn't left a viable contender in her wake. It's even worse for the men, with them still coming up short. And with the only Australian male to make a Grand Slam final in the past decade being Nick Kyrgios, who is currently sidelined with injury, it doesn't look like it's going to be resolved anytime soon. In 1987 and 1988, Pat Cash came agonisingly close, taking 2 different Swedes to 5 sets before tragically being defeated, the second time following an 8-6 tiebreaker. Since the turn of the millennium, Leighton Hewitt has been the only Australian male to come close to the trophy, taking the first set off Marat Safin 6-1 in the 2005 final, before dropping 3 straight sets, and the hopes of an entire nation. Australia will have a number of big names in the Open this year. People like Thanasi Kokkinakis, Rinky Hijikata, and Alexei Poprin. But the main hometown hopeful will be Alex de Minaur. To begin 2024, de Minaur made history when he achieved a career-high ranking of 10th in the world, making him the first Australian male to crack the top 10 since Hewitt in 2006. De Minaur's highest finish at a Grand Slam came in 2020, when he made the quarterfinals of the US Open,
but he has come into fine form at exactly the right time. Come January 14, can another local hopeful break through and add their name to the history books? Or will the Australian Open remain unconquerable to its very own people?